What's up, peeps? Welcome to the ForthWrite podcast. We're very excited this week. We're planning a big epic follow-up for you from episode 7 last week. We went out, we bought some new gear, and we were planning to come in with some live raps, spit some bars for you, do a whole bunch of stuff, which we did. We filmed an episode. We were loving it. We were amped. And as we've been getting ready to upload it, we found out that all of the files are corrupted and we can't actually use it. So we're pretty devo, but, you know, we're going to keep punching. We're getting it sorted. So as a bit of a consolation, what we're going to do is we're digging into the vault. We've obviously, as you know, been filming a lot of epis as we're feeling this out, and we had a few gems that we were sort of keeping on the side that we thought we'd maybe save and use later. So we're using one a little quicker than we anticipated, but that's all right. We've got a backup, so we thought we're going to roll you into one of these other conversations that we had kind of early on, talking about the jobs that we had before music, a whole bunch of deeper stuff that I won't go into yet because I'll save that for you guys to actually watch. But yeah, it felt like a real cool conversation as well anyway, and wasn't quite the follow-up we were anticipating after episode 7. Real grateful for all the love and support for that. That was quite a liberating experience for me to share any of that sort of stuff publicly. So yeah, we were going to probably follow into a whole bunch of other things, which now will probably happen in week 9. We're getting everything sorted, and either then or week 10, there's going to be some bars factored in and the raps will start to be included in this whole smorgasbord of entertainment that is our podcast. So anyway, we're going to pick up in this conversation. We hope you enjoy it anyway, and let us know what you think, and then we'll be back the following week with a follow-up of a follow-up. It's going to be dope. So peace out. Enjoy.
I remember I was doing an apprenticeship as a chippy.
What were you doing before that? Don't want to cut you off, but like I feel like that was one of the other things people keep asking me is like, what jobs did you do? And I'm like, there were some funny jobs that both of us had. Can you take us back? Can you even remember?
Yeah, so I think when I first dropped out of school in like year 9 or year 10, I just went straight into being a waiter at Smokin' Joe's.
Smokin' Joe's.
I was there for about 6 months, and then I think I went back to school to try and finish and just dropped out again because I was just like,
hate this.
I just hated it, man. I couldn't do something that I wasn't passionate about. It actually like repulsed me to do that. It was like something I was incapable of, and there was not much I was passionate about, you know?
Yeah.
But then along the same time, it was like Jim's mowing.
Bit of Jimmy's, yeah.
Like doing cashies and that.
Of course.
Doing a day for $100.
Oh, yeah, brutal. Just getting extorted by some dude running the day.
Yeah. I was working at Thai restaurants, and then just...
Were you a good employee?
I was all right. Not really, man. I was good at Centrelink.
Just thrived.
It got to the point where it was just like, all right, let's just get on Centrelink. And they used to have this program where you get paid, I think it was either fortnightly or something like that. And then every year you could get a $500 advance. Can you remember that?
You might have been the one that cracked the code on that, and you told me, bro, what are we doing, man? We could be balling. You got to get this your advance right now.
Yeah, get the advance, and then they take it a little bit of a time out of each payment, and you pay it back. That was a little bit of a cheat code, but that's really what funded the album. What jobs did you have?
Well, just remember, man, because I think we used to laugh. I definitely did some factory life.
Yeah, I did that too, yeah,
just
man.
Full deros, like same
but
sort
that was
of things.
good money.
Oh, yeah, good money.
Back then.
Same sort of things as you, like when you quit, you just basically never come back. Like I remember there working in the factory one day. All my jobs were with Rames, which was even worse.
And you two together were
was
like...
just out of control, man, just taking the piss. So we'd just sort of mock everything. And then I even remember them saying, all right, boys, we're going to need you here tomorrow. Very important shift. We've got to get this done. And we're like, yep, no problem. We're going to be there. And we knew that it's like Oaks Day or something, and you just like go and end up just getting smashed at the races and just don't come into work and just never come back or stuff like that. I think the waitering thing definitely was working in Lygon Street, waiting tables, because we'd relate to the fact that we both didn't want to carry the drink tray with the one
balance,
no balance. So we'd come up with the 2-hand placement, and then I just used to milk it's my first day for like 6 months, man. The whole time I was there, I just rock up, pop the thing down and go, sorry guys, it's my first day. And everyone in Australia would go, oh, that's all right, love. Don't you worry. Towards the end, I tried to be like, I can do this, and went for the tray. No one really gave me a breakdown though of the common sense that as you like just the weight distribution of the drinks as you take each one off, you're going to want to do that evenly. So I just took them all from close to me, and it just tipped like 4 glasses of wine down this chick's back.
Ooh.
You're going to pay for that. And she just like lost it, and it was just, yeah, that was good.
And I had, when I was working at the Thai restaurant, I remember I was just so bad at that kind of stuff too, like putting stuff down, and there was this like dessert soup thing, and as I was putting it down, they're all looking at this plate, and I just look over and the soup is just pouring into this lady's handbag, and I just quickly tilt it back up and see if they're looking. No one's looking. I'm just like, there we go. Put it down and walk away, and it would have just been stewing in there, man.
That is incredible.
And just
that is incredible.
That's that fear of confrontation. Like you don't say anything. You just
definitely not.
Let that
No
go.
one's owning up to a handbagging though, man. You don't want to do that. Like you want to go without that one. I think probably the straw that broke the camel's back was, remember when I worked at Hungry Jack's?
At Jackie's.
When we worked there, our mate, I think the area manager had left. There was like this period of 3 months, and our mate was one of the managers and was like, man, come down and work here. You guys are going to love it. And we were like, all right. Went down there and just terrorized the joint, man. Gave everyone nicknames, would just ridicule the managers that were there. Like I was out the front, so I was taking orders like this, and then like Rames was out the back making burgers or whatever. I'm trying to think of all the best memories. Straight away he figured out how to steal food. So like on the first shift, he'd like come out the front and walk past me like, grilled chicken top left center down near the fridges. And I'd just come down, steal that. Then he'd come back later and go like, bacon deluxe down the bottom right. And so the whole time we were just taking the piss. And then like I think on one of those first shifts, the 2 little kids that came in, and like one of them had no real money, and he's like trying to ask his friend like, oh man, can I borrow a bit of money? And the other kid was like a dick, man. Like he wouldn't lend him any money. So he's like, oh, can I just get like a small chips? It was all he could afford. And then the other little mate came up and was like, I want this, Junior Whopper, chips, drink, got all this stuff. I'm like, man, I hate this little dude. And then Rames is, just load him up, man. Just give the little legend some stuff. I'm like, you're right. So just grabbed like 8 burgers, like put them on the tray, tipped the whole tray of chips on his thing. Here you go, little legend. That's all yours, mate. And he just took it out, and he's sitting there eating, and then the friend's trying to grab a chip. He's like, no, stay away. That's mine. And he's like eating all this stuff. And then the other little friend, we just like gave him 4 chips in the packet, frozen patty burger. I was like, enjoy.
Teach him a lesson.
Man, just setting, man, I remember the importance I was told about the drive-through. Like how it had this 2-minute clock, and they're like, it's really important. You got to keep it under 2 minutes because the area manager is going to check this. And I'm like, no problems and stuff like that. And then it was like the end of a shift. All the other managers are just out the front having a smoke. And then it was just me and Rames in there, take this order. And I'm like, it's like 4 veggie burgers. And I'm like, all right, Rames, 4 veggie burgers, mate. He's like, how do you make a veggie burger? I'm like, I don't know, bro. That's not my problem. That's yours. And him like coming out the front, looking up at the picture, trying to like figure out what's in the burger or whatever, and then going back, and I'm just like, oh, you better speed it up, mate. We're up to 5 minutes. And then someone else comes through. They order more veggie burgers. It was like a movie, dude. Like in the end, he needed to make like 9 of them. I'm like, hey, how you going with these burgers, mate? We're nearly up to 10 minutes. And he's like, doesn't really matter because it's 5 o'clock, so we're clocking off. And then we just walk out, just tell the managers, hey guys, just letting you know, there's about 9 veggie burgers that need to be made. We're up to about 15 minutes on there, so you better speed it up, okay? We're out of here. Like just ridiculous shit.
Just ruthless.
Obnoxious, man. Like and would have people like, I think we were still at basketball at that point. Like we were starting to kind of become mates and talk about hip hop. Maybe the injuries and things had started to pile up, and we'd sort of already shifted focus into this other world, but we were still working. But dudes at basketball would like wait at the end of training to hear the update. Like, what have you and Rames done this week? And I'd give him new stories. Even the time, man, because he would always crash at my joint, we just woke up one morning and we're like, I don't want to go to work. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to work, man. And then I'm like, all right, you make the call. And he's like, no, you make the call. No. You'll make the call. He's like, it goes back and forth for like 10 minutes until he's like, all right, I'll make the call. Gets up, calls him. Hey, you going, guys? Just letting you know I'm really sick. I can't make it in today, but PEZ is feeling amazing. He's on his way in. PEZ is going to be there. I'm like, tell him I'm not coming in. He wouldn't do it. So I just didn't go, got fired. And then my mate just reinstated me the next day. So I just rocked back up. I'm like, he's back. The champ's back. You can't get rid of me.
Did the people there like you? Or well,
I don't even know, man. We were so obnoxious at that point. Like definitely some people just thought it was the most, because it's so brazen.
no one does that.
No one does that.
Yeah.
So everyone else thought it was the most hilarious thing. It's just like these guys don't care. We kind of had that attitude about life though. And I think that overflowed
with us.
maybe into us. Then we bonded and then wanted to do music. That's kind of how I felt. I was like, man, fuck everyone then. Like, let's just do this. And you know what I mean? It was kind of had that, I don't know why, but it was sort of like at the time,
very much that nothing was to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and that made us feel like, well, we can do anything, even though everyone else thinks this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Who cares what they think? Like, we'll do, you know what I mean? I don't know. It was really weird.
And then, so you got launched with your career.
Well, yeah, let's try and pick back up where we were when I so rudely cut you off at the end of the last epi there. So the game plan was still that we're going to do ForthWrite.
Push us.
You were doing what you see is what you get,
Yeah.
because I had these songs with Matic. So we'd done the mixtape and we wanted to do a ForthWrite album. But I was like, hang on, before we do that, I think I got to put this stuff out with Matic.
Yeah.
So you were like, all right, I might as well do a solo album as well to fill in the time.
And it was always a thing where we'd put each other on the singles.
Yeah, so we were trying to do that single together and I wanted you on Festival Song, and then we were going to do a ForthWrite album. It was just the fact that the Graves thing happened. It was real wild. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but it was like, because I remember you hit me up to be like, are we going to start the ForthWrite album? And I was like, man, I'm a mess. Like, I'm physically very unwell, not in a good headspace. I was like, man, I'm checked out. Like, I hadn't written, and it was like, yeah, I remember feeling the feeling of kind of letting you down, but also you were so hungry at that point then, because you were like,
I got a little taste for it.
and you just locked in. Like, so it was great because we did the EMI meeting. I mean, yeah, I guess you can take over from there as you kind of then just, and I almost felt like I just took a back seat. I just kind of stepped away from music for the most part and was just watching it. I was just proud of like what I was seeing you do, you know what I mean? Like you kind of just took off after that. It was amazing.
I remember really leaning into like the pop element of it, but you stopped altogether, didn't you?
Totally, yeah. That's why I think, which was hard in the sense that as all of these things were happening, I was watching it and you're just like really proud of you. It's really great. But then instead of being there with you to support you like we always would have done, you're kind of in the background and you start seeing a lot of like yes men and just probably like shit people around you, which happens like as we knew anyway. Like we'd already started to see that. That was one of the most disgusting things you watch happen. Even when Festival Song or those things popped off, you watch people change. You're like, what is that? So some dude that's giving you shit suddenly wants to be your best friend. Oh, the person that's this, suddenly they really want tickets to the show. Everyone wants to be a friend. So I was always kind of like, man, that's so gross.
Yeah, so
I spot
fake.
that real quick in people when they're like that. And it also makes me gravitate towards like that circle of friends that I trust. It's because they're real people. I love those people, man, who don't change with the world.
They don't switch up.
Sway that. I love that. Like when you find those sort of real friends, then you love them. You got sort of friends for life sort of thing.
And what were you doing instead of music?
I don't know, man. I think it was that's the other thing. Like you kind of, as you know, it's like feast or famine industry. So you kind of make all this money comes, and never really cared about money anyway. But I did think like what we were saying, like sort of like money was going to be freedom. That was the whole pitch at the front for us, right? Like you kind of, all the guys we looked up to, it was like, oh, we're not going to work. We're going to get all this money. You're going to get girls or whatever. And then I'm going to be happy. So it was really weird to be like the opposite. You got all this money. I feel, hooking up with those shit, but you feel empty and you're like, where am I? Like it's very disillusioning. So that whole thing was kind of like stepping away. Probably then also felt guilty because all the other people around you are broke or working a job they hate. So you just kind of pay for everything for people because I don't know, the whole thing just becomes like
a feeding frenzy.
A bit, yeah. It's a bit of a strange time. You're learning and it was a bit of a roller coaster. And then I don't think even thought about writing till the rapper tag thing, as we said before. But
I think a lot of the distance also came because you had reached a point where you just couldn't party anymore. And I was still just all
hard,
about
yeah.
it. So it was like we were just a different part of our lives at that point.
Yeah.
So the distance did start coming into it, but it was like, I never took that personally that you like hadn't come on that journey or weren't there for me through that. But like I was just going for it, you know?
Totally, yeah.
But,
no, well, we'd always felt, as we even said, like you could probably go into it, but we always felt close, even if we hadn't seen each other for a year. I'm more just reflect on that. It was like you can start to see you need real people around you when that's happening. Otherwise, it is a feeding frenzy. Everyone's just kind of coming in and going for the ride, you know?
Yeah. I remember it quite vividly, man. And like when you start diving into doing some pretty hardcore drugs as well, the people that get around you is just, it's not healthy, but you're just so, I don't know what it was, but you're just blind to it.
They're vultures, man. Because even, like I maybe won't say names, but there's certain people around you that are basically selling you the drugs while they're partying with you. So they're sort of like essentially like profiteering while enjoying the good life and being around this famous dude who's got all of this stuff, you know, so there's snakes. Like that's very different to having people that have got your back and are actually trying to like protect you from that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And then next thing you know, you're spiraled out of control, addicted to drugs, and that's with you for the rest of your life, you know. You didn't really reach that point, did you? You kind of stopped.
Well, I couldn't. And that's the thing. Like that's why with you, it was like, you were able to keep going, but most other people, like I guess it's that same thing. It's kind of a blessing in disguise. At the time, I got really sick, and you're like mad. Oh, why is this happening to me at this time when everything's meant to be? This is what we'd always dreamed about. Like I wanted to actually be doing this, and now it feels like the worst timing. But it stopped me from, as we were saying, like you're at a party, your body's breaking down, and the way people help you is like have another bump, man, and like how deadly that is. So it got me out of that. It made me look at things. My whole perspective on things started to change. Other friends, like a lot of people had different episodes that made it very clear to them, like, man, you can't mess around with this stuff. This is deadly. Like it's so normalized. It's so glorified in culture. Even when we're talking about it, I want to be careful not to like glorify it because at the front end, that is the devil dangling stuff. Like, because it's like at the front end, it does seem really fun. It does seem all these things, but eventually it shows its true colors, and like what it takes in the end is dark. So
and man, we had so many songs where we were just like rapping these real funny stuff that was like glorifying it. But like it broke my heart to hear, like I had someone recently tell me like he was real happy that I'd become Christian because back when they were teenagers, I was the reason they started using drugs.
Oh, that's hectic.
And I was like, oh man, I do not like that. Like I thought it was just fun. I thought people would clearly know that I was taking the piss and wasn't that serious about it.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would actually inspire that. So it makes you really reflect on everything you do and how powerful your actual words are when you've got that influence.
Yeah, totally. And kind of a thing for us to now navigate to some degree. Hey, like, because there's this instinct in us to want to have bars and then want to make it real funny, and you're like, this is obviously satire or this is obviously not serious. Be like, so can you say that anymore or do you not? And like how to kind of police that or navigate that. Yeah, but I guess to keep elaborating, I mean, even that's heavy, man, because it's like that always, as I'd said to you, like seeing you come now to the real thing was like meant a lot because of, man, I was essentially the person that first got you to try drugs.
Wow, yeah, true. Man, I remember.
It's sort of like, and it's sort of like, yeah, man, it's heavy. It's
very
emotional
innocent
to think about, but like, because I wholeheartedly believed at that time that like, oh, this is like eye-opening, like it opens your mind, like this is like almost a rite of passage. Everyone should do this. It's going to blah, blah, blah. And yeah, and it's on some level, kind of like I had a friend do the same for me. I probably would never have done it, but you trust them. And I felt real bad when you're like, man, essentially I then became that gateway to you and you watch you kind of like what it does to your life. It's like,
I remember
horrible.
that. I remember that quite vividly where I was in, can you remember my house in Donny? And I think it was the first time taking pingers and stuff, and then you'd rock up after it and you'd just be all loved up and be like, I love you so much, man. And I was just like, I love you too, man. It's like I never really had this friendship with anyone where you'd actually say stuff like that?
That was the thing I feel like it did. And that's why even in the song, like in festival song, like you take the piss out of it. But that on the
Love
first,
you, man.
yeah, but also that and then calling my mum and dad. Because the first time I had it, that's what I did. I was on the couch, like, and you're just kind of in this euphoria. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And I called my mum and dad in the middle of the night to be like, I love you guys so much or whatever. And they're like, what are you doing, man? Everyone's freaking out at the party. I'm like, it's sweet. It's totally fine. And
Did they know?
They must have. They're so innocent that they probably
Maybe denial.
I don't even know. But it was kind of like that's what it did for me. It sort of like actually gave you totally, you just feel in love with everything. But it was more like to people you really love, you would actually tell them. You didn't care. So it felt like it knocked this wall down. And I'm like, man, everyone
has to know
everyone
this.
should do this. It's so liberating or whatever.
But it did open my mind. A lot of those experiences opened my mind. And even though it goes pretty dark, I wouldn't change anything.
The biggest thing I took away from it, man, was that like that's what drugs, once you have an encounter with God, once you have any of that, and it's the real thing, you don't know till you know, but it was such bliss that like, it makes you realize that like, oh, all this other stuff, all the drugs, all that, they're artificial versions of God.
That.
They're trying to sell you, they sell you bullshit. So it's like, and that's the devil. Like on the front end, it feels like the thing, but it isn't. It starts to take from you, and with time you need more. And then and eventually the darkness shows itself. But when you find your way to the real thing, which is what everyone's actually looking for, there is no come down. There isn't all of that other stuff with it.
It is healthy.
It's the real thing. Like it's actually it. So it's funny how I definitely even noticed that with you straight away, that it's like how jarring it is for people to hear, how confronting. They can hear you talk about any other version of but that seems to be very challenging for people to kind of.
I get it, man, because I was like, I can remember being exactly like that. I hated it. Like if you talk about there's so much stigma and weight that comes just from the word God. Like a lot of people in today's day and age
it's the universe.
It's the universe or
source.
It's source or a higher power. It's like you don't say God because of the weight that comes with it from religion and everything that people have been so hurt by people representing the religion. You know, so it's really interesting that once you actually get there, you're like, oh man, I totally understand all these things, but it's like, how can I now speak to these things that I know as soon as I say like sin or Jesus or
they're like trigger words now.
Yeah, they're going to piss people off. They're going to make, like I've lost so many followers just simply from sharing it on my stories. But it's like I'm like so mindful of it. Like I want to be really gentle in the approach, but I'm going to be very genuine with what's going on with me. Totally. Like I'm not going to hold back.
Yeah, well, I think just being real, being authentic, a lot of that's the funny thing, as we were saying, a lot of them, they're like, it's language. It's like this inbuilt thing to kind of, people put walls up. So it's like the main thing I think, as we've said, the fruits speak for themselves in the end, and that's the main thing, like to just kind of go on the journey can go everywhere. There's so many funny stories, there's so many things, and then there's deeper discussions, there's even just the world itself. Like it feels like with COVID, a lot of that changed for some people. Like there's that was quite an eye-opening experience where then people who used to think a certain thing, suddenly they go, hang on a second, and it makes you look at everything else. So it's kind of, it can be a very gradual thing, but not something that people should be afraid of. You should be actually open to, which is part of the whole point, to actually have open discussion. Eventually then you can start to have people on to talk about different topics and different opinions and all that stuff. Would be so awesome. Uncomfortable discussion, all that shit. Like that's actually what's fun instead of it just being pandering to this or being afraid of that. So
man, it used to be like everything I used to talk about in interviews, I just used to be an expert of dancing around it and saying things that wouldn't offend anyone because I had done it in the past where I was just said whatever I wanted, and then the reaction from that would make me go, oh, I shouldn't do that again.
Well, let's talk about that, because this is a huge part of the journey, was like you were so outspoken at the front end, and like that's what I think so many people gravitated towards that, like because as we said, it didn't seem like you actually didn't care. And that's super refreshing because everyone else cares. Everyone else is shit scared to say what they want to, you know what I mean? So when we were watching you, it's so the bravado, it's brazen, it's arrogant, it's funny. But the main thing was just it's so bold. So I guess going like that, stepping out into the world, falling and flying, yeah, you kind of went in on that. It took off, obviously the partying and all of the rest. But I guess with that came scrutiny and came criticism. So was there a point where then, because you'd never thought, like I could have even when we were doing mixtapes and stuff, there's times I'd be like, bruh, you're going to say that? And you're like, I don't care. And it was just like.
It was almost a competition of who could go the furthest.
So I was like, all right. So, but there was obviously a tipping point. There was a point where then suddenly you started to think about, I shouldn't say this or this might, and that's how dangerous is that, particularly as an artist or anything. If you start putting what people think ahead of what you're trying to create, like that's getting contrived super quick. So when did that
it was like,
start to happen?
I think when the career got really launched and suddenly I'm in the spotlight, it had all this support at the start. It was like had an army of kids that would just do anything I say when I posted and stuff.
Yeah.
It was like the influence was so strong and the support was just unlimited. And then it got to the point where it went almost too big. It's like...
Yeah, then it turns back in on itself.
Then everyone turned. It became uncool.
Yeah, which is always a thing.
And it was the same people. I remember these same kids that I met up with when I was doing a regional show who were huge fans. Suddenly, they turned on me. Like they'd become big Cursor fans. And
yeah, so did that create the divide? Because people love this sort of theatre. It becomes like, oh, that's the Metro side, this is the lad side. So we're going to be, and then so they kind of create a false dichotomy anyway. Or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that battle was very much became like a battle between the commercial radio guy and the pop crowd or the Metro.
Yeah.
And then the very street underground. That was like the whole matchup. And
which becomes a caricature anyway, though.
Yeah.
Like it's not really, but yeah, keep going.
It's not real, yeah. And then I think in that process, I remember doing an interview where this guy was like, in your battles when you say the F word to explain a gay person, like I never even thought of it. I was just like, that's just a diss. I wasn't actually saying you're gay.
That's right.
And then I remember him saying that. He's like, really offensive as a gay man to hear that. And you're influencing so much kids. And I remember that really sticking with me. Like I remember taking that on board and instead of taking it on board properly, I probably took it and started shaping to try and do the opposite, like thinking, all right, I need to make sure I'm only being a good influence instead of just being authentic to where I was at.
Yeah.
Life became about trying to project this better image and make people better. And I don't know how it got so out of control for a while there, but it got to the point where like I just lost myself, man. I think it comes with people pleasing in general, where if you're not saying what your gut is telling you to say, you lose respect for yourself every time. Every time you deny that instinct to say something, you lose respect for yourself. And over the years, it's a death of 1,000 cuts. So it's like you get to the point where it's like,
where am I?
Who am I?
Yeah, wow.
And that was like when I was in rehab 5 years ago, that was the whole point and the whole focus for me was, okay, I need to figure out who I am. Like, what do I even stand for now? I was standing for things I thought others thought I should stand for.
That's right, yeah.
It was bizarre, man, but it was, and then fast forward to now, it's not about finding myself or like, who am I? It was about just reconnecting with who I was before. It's like I've come full circle, gone through all that stuff to my 20s to now connect with who I was as a child and feel that almost innocence and purity again, which has been so liberating. And it's interesting to go from being the ultimate people pleaser, really caring what people think, doing a lot of work with my coach to cut the people pleasing out. Like he helped me really get on top of that and held me accountable when I had to say the thing if I wasn't saying it. And then to then get to the point where coming to God, that was like this final moment that just liberated me from actually caring what people think. It's been so freeing in that regard. Like, there's been so many topics that have come up over the podcast that I've been doing where it's like, in the past, I would have just been like, oh, I don't know what to say here. This is getting too out of hand. Like, I'll tell you about one after. It was full on.
You just leaned into it?
Just say whatever I think.
Yeah.
You know, just saying what I actually feel and being like, okay, this might, if someone goes and cuts this up, this is going to cause a lot of offense. People are going to get quite upset over this. Yeah. But then I'm just being honest, and I'm saying it from a place of love. It's not saying anything with hate, you know? I think that's the big thing too, is like the gospel is a message of love, and then you're called to love everyone, which is very difficult.
Yeah, well, even love your enemies and all these things and forgive your enemies, all these things that are very counterintuitive to the human experience.
Yeah, like bless those who wish you harm.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge, man. That's hard to do. And I've been putting that into practice a lot, you know, like this scene, man, is so caught up in reputation, materialism and stuff, like idolatry, all sorts of stuff.
It's always been that's one of the downsides probably to hip hop. It's always been heavily draped in that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
particularly since we got into it maybe in the 90s and that. Maybe at the very start it actually wasn't. Like, it was kind of quite political, or like,
yeah, true,
when you think of Public Enemy and all that, or just like kind of party and feel good and that, but it did get over sexualized and materialized like really quick.
Oh, the sexualization of it all is crazy.
Hectic.
Man, it is insane.
At this point, like, it's off the charts. But I guess that's the biggest thing as you mature and get older, you actually think about, so it is walking that line where you actually, I guess you do think about influence, because you watch how toxic it is with that messaging, particularly me as a dad now, when you got kids, that's the first thing you're looking at. Like, there's propaganda everywhere. There's literally the messaging that's coming, like all of that stuff from every angle. So you're thinking about, man, if you just let your children be exposed to this, and that's a huge part of like me being very cynical and, you know, conspiratorial in my outlook on life sort of thing, was always more just like, that's been, feels like part of the agenda. Once you get both parents working, they have to work, and then the kids are taken by the system from a young age, and that's who's shaping their view. That's they're watching the TV. That all of this is shaping their outlook, shaping their mind, and then by the time they come back as parents, you don't have very much influence. Where in the past, that's the whole point. You want to keep the family close for as long as you can to kind of instill the values that really matter to you, and those good, because all the other things out there are the polar opposite to that. It's sort of pretending to be virtuous, but the deeper you look into a lot of it, it's the total opposite. Like, it's a...
And how do you go about raising them to not like listen to the outside noise and not buy into all that crazy propaganda?
I guess it feels when they're very young at the front end, the goal is just to kind of keep them in the bubble as much as you can and just limit their exposure to it. And then I guess, yeah, as they're coming of age, you're just trying to have open dialogue and discussion, and like you can't shy away from things, but you just probably explain where you're at, where you're coming from, like how maybe sometimes those things can be quite enticing, but what they really look like once they play out, like there's all sorts of fascinating discussion, but it is it's like moving goalpost sort of thing a little bit, where the world's changing so rapidly that's the other hectic thing. Hey, like all the technological aspect, all these things, it's like, man,
like phones,
all of that. So you kind of, then you gravitate to other parents that like you're all like-minded, you all share that, and it becomes really cool when you start to have that community of people that are all on the same page, and you don't feel alone, because that's very easy. When you first sort of shy away from just the mainstream version of life, people probably feel isolated, or which maybe COVID was a good example of that. Suddenly people started to sort of split. It becomes very polarizing, just deliberately polarizing. That's what groupthink is. But it's like, you don't want to go against the pack because you're going to be ostracized. So it's terrifying, the thought of, where it's really cool when you start to meet, hang on, there's actually a lot of other people out here that feel the same way we do, like they see what's going on. So it's
been a silver lining to COVID and all that, because a lot of people have just become so awake to what's going on. Where before, it's like everything's just shifted so much. It's been flipped upside down. Like everything that we thought was right and left wing has just been the opposite now.
Totally, yeah.
You know, it's all gone a totally different direction. And I guess the important thing is to just have the kids and make sure they're raised with strong enough values and principles that they don't get lured into all that craziness. Because it's like, I think when I think about when we were teens, you have a lot of kids who were outcasted and quite isolated and very impressionable, but they would become goths or punks and get all these piercings and stuff, when now if they're getting led into making these choices that they can't ever take back at such a young age.
Totally. That's hectic. But even like, as we were saying, like the power of influence, because when you're young, when you are a teen, even as you were saying, like when you were so impressionable to it, even if you come from a good home and like, you know, it's a loving environment, all these usual things, if the music that's popping off, everyone's raw, everyone's killing everyone, and then all the other young kids are into that and you want to be part of that crew, you start listening to it, you start behaving like it, even though you're not. So it's like,
yeah, true. You're still susceptible to falling victim to it.
Totally, because there is that phase in your teens and all that, which is why Marxism was always so effective, because it's like you want to fill kids' heads with all this bullshit before they've gone into the real world and they actually have something experiential to sort of, you know, actually synergize with it, like to actually, once you put the two together, you get to see whether the ideas hold up. But when you're just in a classroom or in those things and you're filled with all this self-righteous stuff and you feel so virtuous, it's wonderful. You head out to take on the world, but you just don't have any idea what you're talking about. Once you've been out there and you've actually lived a little bit, you get to test them and see, yeah, it changes. So it's kind of why it's so clever in that way. And why I guess always business, even music, like all those things, it's always been geared towards, they want to take advantage of that phase because kids don't actually have any wherewithal yet. They're supposed to be looking for some guidance and advice. That's why the whole movement now is like, okay, boomer, like, okay, like, you know, you want to reject your elders. You don't listen to them. They're outdated. That like, this is real antiquated notion. Now we're so in touch. We know all this stuff. That's deliberate because we're really like, as I think we've grown with maturity, I'm interested in that's the first thing you want to do. I want to talk to all elders. I'm curious about what they know, like because you can learn a lot from them when you've seen, you know, families that have stuck together and their kids have all grown up and done this and that. And I'm like, man, that's the dream. I want my girls to hopefully have like a good life.
It has become that, hasn't it? Like you see in so many like sitcom shows where they portray the dad as this stupid,
definitely,
who can't do anything, and it's like.
Max.
Will know nothing and it's
bumbling
so,
sort of idiot.
Yeah, it's like an assault on a family unit.
Definitely. That's been subliminal for a long time, but then it became pretty overt. At a certain point, you're like, man, it's like a caricature of itself. Yeah,
and I don't know if it's changed much from when we were younger, because I think we probably thought we knew better when we were then.
It almost feels like that's a natural rebellious phase. It's what's really tricky, and they take advantage of that. You do think that you've got the world figured out. That's part of becoming a dad for me, was what was so cool. I realized, man, I had no fucking idea what I was talking about. I thought definitely don't work. Work's the enemy. I'm going to get all this stuff and be happy, get all money, sleep around all these things, and then ended up wanting to get married, have children. Loved it. It was the happiest I'd ever been. Got up, you know, finally, obviously after 10 years, you run out of money. It's like if you're going to be a musician or a rapper and you don't put any music out, there's a certain point when you're going to run out of money. So that happened and was, you know, thank God for Rames, because it was like, he's like, man, just come work for me. It's sweet. But it was like the idea of getting up early in the morning and going to work, I thought would be horrible. And I was like actually kind of happy. Maybe it gave me structure, purpose, direction. There's all these things that I could suddenly see, all this beauty in things that I thought was going to be.
It's like
and most people still now, like if they don't, that the modern family is like people, like a couple gets together and they're going to have a dog or something, because it's like, oh, we don't want to have the burden of children, man. Like it's the hedonistic dream. There's too much fun to be having and all this sort of stuff, when it's like the total opposite, man. Like it was the best. Like when you got these little legends, you're like, so like when I saw my daughter born, man, both of them, but like when Lonnie was born, like I just broke. It felt like maybe that was even the beginning. That was one of the catalysts of like coming out of that
Pulling you away from the world.
It pulls you out of the trivial shit that I thought mattered to suddenly like, boom, like something innate, just like there's something about nature that like just locks in a moment. Like you're holding someone that you would die for. You can't explain it. It just happens. And then, so it was really powerful shift from everyone else. It's all about this. And that's always the dream we were sold. Like you got to live your dreams. It's all about this stuff that's going to make you happy. And it's kind of like not really true. Like it's a gift. Like when we've come back full circle to it now, I'm like, oh man, I know why we got into music. I actually love this. This is so fun. If there's like even just going on the tour and there was like people there, like the fact that there's hundreds of people at the show, I'm like, why are you, I couldn't process why any of them were here. Like afterwards, it's like, oh, it's so nice. You wait here for an hour and meet us all. I'm like, man, I love you guys. The fact that you guys are here like means so much to me. So this is a absolute blessing, but you sort of see it for what it is because there's these other things that are paramount. Like there's so much more important. It's not the be all and end all. It's like really fun. It's beautiful, but it's not, you know what I mean? I don't know.
And I think like a lot of people, like I know a lot of women especially who have gone through their lives like going like being told that being a mother is being a stay-at-home mum is disempowering.
Assault on that, yeah.
And then they've gotten to the point where they're either mid to late 30s and they've gone the career route, but then they've realised, hang on, all I want is to be a mum.
Yeah, or even if they want to just have a child, then they realize it's like, oh man, this is the kind of unfair thing that there's a biological clock. So they realize, man, running out of time. I've certainly seen that, like women that were all about their career and then suddenly had a baby and just didn't give a shit about it. Because I was like, that's what happened to us. And I wasn't like going, yeah, I'm the man, I'm living it, I get to go work a job. I'm working a job because I just want to provide for them and do it. But
you had to.
But I want to be there too. So like I was very lucky with Lonnie because we still had the tail end of music money and I could be there so much. I was like, man, that was the biggest thing. It's like if you are fortunate enough to have a job where you don't have to be working 80 hours a week, because you're missing time, man. Like it's, and that, yeah, so that's what's really horrible. You see a lot of women, they're made to feel guilty for wanting to, if you have to work, man, you have to work and it sucks. So it's like, that's fine. But the idea of like encouraging them to outsource their children to get back to living the dream with the career, it's man, who cares about the career? Like literally that's the first thing that happened. Like once your child was there, I didn't care. Like you say, you don't care about the outside world. You just literally want to be in this cocoon with your family. And if you're lucky enough to kind of do it, it's amazing. Like you will love it. Like if,
I can't wait, man.
Yeah, I hope so, because I feel like you'll absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I don't have a biological clock because I've left it so late, and I would hate to have like gotten to the point where, man, I'm running out of time here.
Yeah.
But luckily, we can pop off till we're 70. You know?
This is true. You got to find a young wifey.
Yeah, and have multiple kids and be that late dad.
Yeah.
You know, that senior citizen dad.
Exactly. But no, I think you will love it. It's very hard to explain what happens, but it's kind of, it does put things into perspective like pretty quickly for you.
Yeah, it was cool to see how much you've changed over the course of like Lonnie's life. You know what I mean? Like just lean into that. And the first time you're actually like, dude, I actually can't do music at the moment because I'm being called to provide and support the family. And that's just where I'm being led at the moment. Was like, oh, wow, you're just following where the spirit leads you.
Totally, yeah. And it's because of that simple fact that kind of that's what matters most. Like if the love started to come back, even that might have been through COVID. I think I did some verse down bad challenge or something that Seth tagged me in, hadn't written, but it was like suddenly this, because COVID, everything shut down, we just got to have this family time, so we loved it, and I started to dabble in writing again and was like, oh man, there's no agenda anymore. This is actually kind of fun. And started feeling like I feel like I could actually get back into this, but you're trying to juggle that with family life. So now it's coming full circle to a point where, man, we can start to find a little bit of time to explore this again. Some of the music that we've been doing just feels so fun. It feels like when we started.
Yeah.
that's what's so funny about it.
Yeah.
The chemistry's like just always been there. That sort of lightness, the joy. And I think that was the thing that feels really fun to hopefully explore on this journey is like podcast. There's lots of deep things we can talk about, but it's sort of just that lightness. Like it felt like we'd hang out and I'm like, man, there's times we're just pissing ourselves because you feel like we're getting back to, this is like 15 years ago when you're just first hanging out, and it's kind of like, a chance to just explore that and also just make some music that we actually love.
Yeah, it'll be great to like do the music now where we're at. Like I feel like if we had done it back then, it might not have been right.
Yeah, well, we probably
would have been fun.
It'd still be fun, but it's unfinished. That's the reason we got to do it. It feels like we were always intended to do this thing and never did it, and now we're in a clear enough space.
Yeah,
that it feels like I think this is the time to actually do this. It could be really fun.
ForthWrite for us was the priority. Like that's what we were trying to do from the start, but then just life happened.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
So now it's becoming the priority again. Like for me, like I'd be down to just not do solo music and just do ForthWrite and just do the podcast, man.
Yeah, dope.
Like it'd be so cool to take this around on tour, do this during the day, and then at night do the big ForthWrite set.
Mad.
I think
I'm down, babe.
We can turn it on for you folks.
The folks at home. Yeah, well, that's it. We'll wait till some people listen and watch. They can give us some feedback and we'll find out where we're at, cuz.
Yeah, man.
Then we can expand and explore. Yeah, so hey, we've shot a few. It's feeling fun. We don't have a full template yet. We kind of maybe have a rough idea of some things we might touch on and we're just kind of rambling. We're going with the flow. Once we branch out into subjects about what's going on in the world as well at the moment, we're just kind of getting nostalgic.
Yeah, we're talking about what we've been through in our lives and stuff like that, which is probably going to go on until we unpack it all. But then we're going to branch out, man. We're going to start doing it.
That's it. We'll do it. But anyway, we're only doing that because that seems to be what people ask. So you can let us know how that's going. We'll see you again next week. Can't wait. It's going to be fun. Peace out,
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.